Happy Thursday, everyone. For this session, which is only about 10 minutes, we're going to be doing the clam exercise. So this exercise is one that we use in Pilates quite frequently. It is one of the most effective exercises that you can do for your glutes, particularly your glute medius muscles. So clams primarily work your glute medius muscles, part of your glute maximus muscles, and that's what the medius muscle is, what forms the outer booty. Okay, and those muscles are responsible for getting you out of the car, walking up the stairs, lifting your foot off the floor, etc. It's also really important that this particular muscle helps to stabilize your pelvis anytime you are walking and even when you are falling off balance. So it is a really important muscle to strengthen, and this particular exercise is a really good way to strengthen without having to use other body parts. So quite often squats target your glutes, but they often end up targeting more your quads, because a lot of people don't properly engage their glutes when they're doing squats. And that goes for sometimes bridge exercises as well, and other exercises that we end up sort of being more quad dominant, so then the glutes don't necessarily get fired up and actually do sort of the work that they should be doing. So it's one of the most effective and simplest ways to activate your glutes. Particularly really good if you're very active and if you're an athlete as well. Again, this is a really good exercise, as I say, to target those glute medius muscles, and also often used in rehab exercises as well. So quite often physios will give this exercise out for people that need to, that maybe have an imbalance, or if they particularly sort of have a lot of instability in their pelvis or their hips, then again targeting and strengthening the glute medius muscles is a way to obviously create that stability in the pelvis and the hips. So there are a few different ways that you can do this exercise, so we're just going to run through a few. I've got a squidgy Pilates ball, I've got an activation band, and I've also got a block, and you are laying on your side. Now when you're laying on your side, if you want to lay straight down, make sure that you've got a block or a pillow that you can lay on, because obviously, as well as doing the exercise, we want to make sure that we've got that correct position as well, and we're not ending up sort of tensing up other muscles. So your head doesn't want to be like dropping onto the floor, otherwise you're going to pull into your neck. So make sure that you can have something under your head. And this is our basic clam exercise. So you are having your legs bent, your knees are coming towards the front edge of your mat if you're on a mat, and your feet are together, so your legs are stacked. Now ideally you want to make sure before you start, your hip is facing up towards the ceiling, towards the sky. So what we don't want is for that hip to be rolling backwards, or for that hip to be rolling too far forwards. So place your hip central, chest is nice and open, but we still want to engage through our abdominals. The feet stay together, the bottom leg stays nice and still, and all we're doing is we're lifting that top leg up and down. Now you'll see my feet still connect. I'm not lifting my feet away from each other, and as I lift that leg, I'm keeping this hip still. So I'm stabilizing the hips and the pelvis, but you will really feel the effect of this exercise because you'll feel it pretty much straight away in this glute medius muscle. So we're strengthening the muscles around the hip. So you've got that outer thigh as well that we're working, but primarily the glute medius muscle here, okay? And usually when you've done a fair few, you will start to feel a bit of a burn, and that leg might start to fatigue. And we kind of want to get to the point of fatigue because we want to build that muscle up. So remember that when you're moving through this, we're not using any momentum. We're not swinging that hip around. So sometimes the best thing to do is to keep your hand on your hip and notice that you're keeping that hip nice and still. And like I say, you should feel this one quite quickly. So that's our basic clam exercise. Now, if you don't like laying, on your side, or you've got a bad neck or shoulder, you could bring yourself up. What I do find is easier, obviously you might not have one of these, but you could use pillows, is if you tuck that under your waist, that will help to keep your waist lifted. It will keep you in a nice alignment through the spine. You want to then make sure your shoulder's directly over your elbow so you're protecting the shoulder. And we can do this exercise just the same, but in a more upright position. So that's just a different way of doing it. So you might be more comfortable here, or you might be more comfortable laying down. All right. So another option is to use your activation band. So you would slide your activation band through the legs through the activation band to the middle of the thighs. Make sure it's not across the knees. Again, you can either lay down or sit up. And then the idea of this is that, again, you're going to push away just the same, but I'm now adding resistance. So I can feel that even more now. Again, we've still got to make sure we're stabilizing through the hip and the pelvis, but I'm pressing this leg into the band, okay? So I can feel that one a lot quicker with the band on than I can without. And again, really good way to obviously just add a little bit more strength work into that exercise. So if you've got an activation band, I would always use it anyway for your clam. And if you haven't, don't worry. Or if you've got a resistance band, you can tie your resistance band. So wrap it around your legs and tie it. It won't work as well as the activation band, but it will still add a little bit more resistance. So a few options there. And then we can also add in a side plank. So we can do a clam and then add in a side plank, and then we just bring it back down. So we take the leg up, then lift the hip away from the floor and then come back down together. So clam and then lift and then gently release back down. So clam and lift and then gently release back down. So that's, again, another added part that you can put into it for your core. So really working those obliques as well. I'm going to spin round just so that we're not doing it all on the same side. So we've still got a few other ways to do our clam exercise. Again, your position is completely up to you. So the other option is that instead of our knees being at the front edge of our mat, we can move the knees further back. So we still keep the legs stacked, but our knees are now moving that little bit further back. And then again, all we're doing is still lifting and lowering just the same. You might feel a difference. So think about really pulling in more into your core, because when you go further back, you do become slightly more unstable. So make sure that you're fairly stable in the basic clam first to be able to then send these knees further back. You're still targeting the same muscles, but it's just a different variation. So as I say, you can do it with knees back or knees further forwards. And if you feel that for you that's more effective, then do it that way. And then we've got another option. We can keep the feet up. So we keep the feet up, and again we lift the top leg and we keep those feet lifted. So we're still keeping the feet together, but it's just an alternative. So it's just a slightly different variation to your clam exercise. So it might be that you just stick with one, your basic one, and maybe do 3 to 4 sets if you can, of maybe 12, 15, depending. Again, with or without your booty band. I'm thinking what else. There is another one. So we've got activation band. We've done the side plank. We've done the knees forwards. We've done the knees back. We've done the feet lifted. We could also lift the knees. So when we lift the knees, again, that bottom knee stays quite still, but it's off the floor. Now again, this involves a little bit more, obviously, engagement through your core, but it is quite a good way as well to work your obliques. So as I'm lifting my knees, I'm having to activate through my abdominals, through my obliques, to be able to keep those knees off the floor and do the clam at the same time. That one can get a little bit of movement. So again, think about where your hip is. Make sure that obviously when you're lifting the knees, you're not sort of rolling yourself over. So make sure that you can keep that so that hip isn't moving back. So probably that's enough to be getting along with. Obviously make sure you do the same amount on both sides. And again, as I say, if you've got that activation band, I would definitely use that, because it really will help, and it really will help to stabilize through the hips and the pelvis. And if you don't like doing squats, then again, this is an effective way in which to engage your glutes, to strengthen those glutes without having to squat or without having to do that bridge lift. And it just means that they turn on because you've not got other muscles involved, and they're not going to do the work for those glutes. So I hope that's a one you can try, and you can hopefully enjoy it and strengthen those glutes. And any more information you want on that, then obviously just let me know. See you later.